Okay, if you remember when we had the big news event with the submersible imploding and all that, um, me and my kid were talking about it, and we said, let's make a submersible for the pool. So I thought about it, and I always keep these pill bottles because they come in handy for just everything. And I figured we could make one out of pill bottles. So what I'm doing is I'm finding a hole saw that I can use to saw the bottom out of the pill bottle, because I plan on putting a couple of those pill bottles together to make kind of like the body of the submersible. And here we go. It's kind of wobbly, but it's not like we're building a submarine here. Well, not one for me. It's for the Lego guys. But after we get these parts put together, we'll start assembling it. But I'm using that to make a kind of like a bulkhead between two compartments. And then this is another part of the main hull, I believe. Yes. There's a part where it'll be joined and a part where you can split it apart. So that's what you're seeing here. Those two will go together. Like that. Those will be put together like that, and then you can glue those two open lids together, and then you'll be able to split it apart to take the men or the Lego guys in and out. Now, I will say I tried a couple of different ways to seal these things together, and I ended up using super glue, and then when we had the conning tower, I actually used hot glue also. See, that's the rough shape, and then so what we're going to have to do is sand it smooth so there's a really good mating surface for that super glue to stick to it here.
This guy's a
Because that guy's counting on us. Now, I'd already test fit this, but I'm just using regular old Harbor Freight super glue, cyocyanate, CA glue, whatever you call it. And you can see I got a run already going down the edge, which isn't good, but I kind of hold it together, and from recollection, after it dries, I go ahead and run another bead around the outside. I think this is by far the weak point of the structure right here. Because that yellow yellow plastic didn't seem to glue as good as the white plastic of the lid, but it still worked. So now we're gluing two lids together, and this is like a removable bulkhead in between two compartments. My thought here was to put it in the vise and let the vise hold it, and it worked okay, but you really couldn't put a lot of pressure on it because it would just start deforming. So it did work good enough. Now what I'm doing is I'm deciding this is going to be the conning tower, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to cut it. We're initially going to have a conning tower, but then we figured, why not? So all the other little submersibles that we'd seen, except for the one that imploded, have one sticking up so you can get in and out of it while it's in the water. And now we're drilling the hole for the conning tower. There's one wobbly bit. This was the hardest thing to get to seal. I used a lot of super glue. I think I have a show it here. I actually put little pieces of plastic trying to fill up the holes and then super glue those in place. And then ultimately what I ended up doing is going over it with hot glue. And that worked really well. Super glue worked, but it was just seemed to not. There was always a little drip, or a little stream of water that would leak in there when it got real deep. You can see I'm putting a little piece of plastic in there to fill up a hole, and then I'll just drop super glue on top of it. But it's still, if I recall, it still had little leaks, and I don't know if I show it, but I do eventually, like I said, just go around it with hot glue. Now these are fishing lures that I made with my dad, my grandparents, like when I was a kid, so like 35, 40 years ago. Those are homemade crappie lures. They're just melted tire weights. They're just lead. If you fish for crappie, that is the best lure you can get. You just go make them, paint them white with good old lead paint. Those things worked great. But anyway, that's what I'm using for ballast to try to sink this thing, because there's a lot of air you're trying to suck down. So I think this is the first experiment where we just put the weights inside of it. Yeah. Put some on the outside and some on the inside. So it's a little heavy. So this is where we build the men to go inside the structure. Got the divers, the commander, the people that drive the sub, whatever they're called. This was fun.
I'm gonna take 2 different things.
All right,
And
let's
here
see.
they
Let's
are
have
on their
them
maiden
on the
voyage.
surface,
You'll see them.
ready for diving.
It floats. We've got it pretty well balanced out, and you just drop one little weight into that lid.
Put weight on.
But she couldn't see it, but she dropped one in there, and it just goes down. And if you take the lid and flip it, it won't sink because it's adding that much more air. So even with the extra weight, it won't sink. So that's how balanced it is, or you want to say ballasted correctly. This was a fun little project. And it's cool to teach your kids, especially just how heavy, how much weight you have to put on something that's full of air to sink it. Now, I will say my kid lost interest in this way before I did, but I think she still learned something. And scale depth, this thing actually went to the bottom, was probably, when I measured it, was like a scale, 290 feet. That's like almost 6 feet actual, but it's still only 6 feet of pressure. Pressure doesn't scale, but scale depth. Almost 100 meters, so that's pretty deep. You can see you got it really balanced. It'll just sit there and hover on the bottom almost. So, if you get interested, make yourself one of these. We had a real good time making it. Hope this helps you. See ya. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. All right. Now back up.